Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're in. Greetings to you and welcome to Domesticated Me. I'm Iona Renee and welcome. Welcome if you are a first time listener. Welcome if you listen to me all the time. Just welcome. Welcome if you stumbled upon me. Really welcome if you stumbled upon me because I really truly believe that when you stumble upon something, there's something special about it. There's something that you need to hear in that. So I just hope that what I'm sharing today is fruitful for everyone, including myself, a twofer, as I call it. So if you've not subscribed, subscribe. If you like the content, share. If you and like it, and if you have comments, please comment because that's what kind of helps me out during the week when I'm making the videos, what to say next, what type of topic to come up next with, and what have you not. So now that I kind of got the housekeeping out of the way, I'll move on to the topic because I only have a few minutes here. These things are really short, like 12 minutes. So you got 12 minutes for me. But today I'm going to talk about assumptions and assumptions in two different ways. And I keep going this way because I've been rereading some books that I've read before, and they're just continuing to just spark the evolution inside of me. I'm reading another book that I'm not going to really say what it is right now in this one, but in a few weeks I'm going to talk about that. It's a really deep book to me, and I haven't even read it before, and I should have, but it's just one of those books. So anyhow, I'm not going to keep you in suspense about that. You'll be like, oh, Iona, that's messed up. But no. So, but when I talk about these agreements, I'm going to be relating it to two different teachings and my own thought process in regard to that. Well, the first one is going to come out of this book, The Four Agreements. It is Don Miguel Ruiz. I've read this book several times, and he talks about assumptions. Don't make assumptions. He says the reason why you shouldn't be making assumptions is because, hey, half the time they're not true. And we know that. We know that as humans, how often we make assumptions and they end up not being true. And then the other one is going to be coming out of The Complete Reader, Neville Goddard, the book I talk about, I read all the time. His interpretation of assumptions is a bit different. It's related to faith. He relates it to scripture out of Hebrews, the scripture that we've been talking about, and more out of Hebrews, but he really connects it to other things in the holy word, the biblical word, in his teaching, in faith overall. So, but he comes a lot out of Hebrews in his book, as he relates to how he feels about the assumptions. But I just want to start with the assumptions where you shouldn't be making them. You shouldn't be making them, where they're detrimental to you. And what I call that is wrestling. I call it you're wrestling in your assumptions. Because a lot of times as we're doing these assumptions about whatever the thing is that we're assuming about, we're going back and forth. We've probably done came up with 3 scenarios to that one thing that we're assuming about. You name it. If we take relationships, we assume a lot about what our mate is doing, where they're at, whether or not they went where they said they was going to go, or what if they're doing what they said they're going to do. And we're driving ourselves crazy because we're thinking about stuff that we can't control. That's the first thing. But then B, we don't even know if it's true, but we're making it our truth because we're basing it on the character that we've created in that person. This is how I look at it. I look at, we say, this is your MO. This is your MO. So because it's your MO, I know that you're not going to go straight to the store. You're going to go make 50,000 errands before you bring me back what I need. Oh, but what a surprise when that person actually just goes to the store and brings it back. So you're either feeling like an ass or you're like, wow, you're impressed. So it gives you 2 little different things going on in that. So, and that's why they say, the old saying is assumptions can make an ASS out of you, because a lot of times your assumption is going to be totally false. It's not going to be true. It's something you built. And so we begin to do this thing in our head, and we are like, okay. So anyways, 3 months ago, about 3 months ago, me and a couple of my friends read this book. And you know what? It might have even been even longer than that, because it was before the pandemic. And so that means that we read this book before the pandemic as a group. It was probably about my fourth time reading it. And after we read it, we came up with these different things that we would do per sections in the four agreements. And so in the four agreements, one of the things I asked people to do for a week was to count your assumptions and see how many assumptions you came up with, no matter how small they were. Like, just count them and see how many assumptions you came up with within a week. And the challenge was hard, but I'm telling you, it was revealing. It was revealing on how many times you'll sit back and have to be like, okay, wait, that's me. That is me. I can't know that to be truth. Or I can't know it to be false. And the only way I'm gonna really find out if whether or not that's true is if I ask a person straight out. I have to be bold enough to ask what I'm sitting back thinking about or thinking on, and bringing about, as a matter of fact. Because when you continue to think on the behaviors, the MO, you draw the MO towards you anyhow. I truly believe in that. And I think that's one thing about assumptions, because you're making them so much and you're wrestling with them and you're changing them, and you're doing these different things to make them fit your agenda. And so we do that a lot. I know I do. When it was really mind boggling how many times I did it. And so now I'm aware of it. And so I kind of pay attention to my assumptions a little bit more, and then kind of check myself, because that's me. That's the inside of me. That's no one doing that. That's me. And so I try to check my assumptions a little bit now. It's like what I do. And so on the because what we're doing, we're assuming stuff that's not in evidence. It's like, that's not in evidence. We don't know that to be true. We're just assuming it. It's not in evidence. It might be a person MO and they might have done it before, but that's not in evidence. We have to literally wait on a person to do stuff, and then we can act upon that instead of just drawing these negative things to us. That's kind of like how I see it. And so when I think about it the other way, the Neville Goddard way, which is resting in your assumptions, resting in them, it's more like expectation. It's more like faith. It's assuming stuff not in evidence. But when you're resting in it, it's more strategic plan. It's more a methodical thing. You've thought this out. You know what this is, that your assumption is that this is about to happen. Your expectation is this is about to happen. These words intertwine is how I look at it. It's even how he brought it up in his book, like about how Hebrews 11, faith is assumptions of things not seen. You don't have no evidence. You don't have no evidence, but you are saying this is it. It's your truth. So what is your truth going to be when you're using assumptions? That's what I ask people to look at. That's what I ask myself to look at. What is my assumptions going to be? Are my assumptions going to be things that are good and lovely? Or if my assumptions are going to be things that I don't even want in my life? Because whatever my assumptions is, I'm going to draw them to me because of the way of my own thought process, what I'm thinking about. So in that, I said we have to deal with our assumptions in a very strategic way. If your assumptions, if you can rest in your assumptions, rest in those expectations of the things you want, then you should definitely rest in them. They should definitely be part of your game plan. But if you're wrestling with something, making up different scenarios and all of that, that's not faith. First of all, it's going to cause you a big headache, because you're trying to, your mind is running everywhere. That might be a good time for your meditation. Wow, that just came to me right there. That might be a good time for our meditation. That 20 minutes of still time that I'm saying, we got to get that 20 minutes of still time in. We have to. At minimum, you got to sit still. You got to let your mind close down, because when you do, you begin to have more of a creative space. That's where your creative space is. That's when you're able to have more of a good feeling about life. It does something for you. It's euphoria when you get into it. And once again, like I said, I know I done jumped off topic a little bit because I get excited about meditation. You cannot do it wrong, guys. I thought that for the longest when I first started. You cannot do it wrong. You cannot. There is no, oh, I can't sit still, or my mind is doing this, my mind is doing that. It's going to. It's going to. You just got to rest a little bit. And then before you know it, you'll get it. Start with 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, and get to 20 minutes of still time. Just you and you. You and you. So, once again, when it comes to assumptions, the number one key is we believe our assumptions are true. We believe our assumptions are true. And to the degree is your level of faith. To the degree is your level of faith. But when you're doing those daily assumptions, you're vibrating on a level you probably don't want to be vibrating on, because normally our daily assumptions are negative. That's the one thing I learned during the whole week of assumptions. Normally they're negative. Normally they're not, oh, I'm assuming that there's going to be somebody there to pump my gas. Why did I say that? Because I don't like pumping my gas. But I never let nobody pump my gas for me. But I always have that thought, like, somebody please ask me to pump my gas. But I don't vibrate that high on that level because I really don't want it. I just don't want to pump the gas myself. But I had this little thing. It's weird, but um, it's one of those things. So I'm not going to get into it, but I can tell a story about it, and I will, because this seems like an appropriate time. I might not be able to get this in anyhow, but I was vibrating because I don't like putting air in my tires either. One day my tire was low, and I was vibrating on I needed air in my tire, and I just didn't want to do it myself this day. And lo and behold, I got to the gas station to put the air in my tire. I filled up 3 of the tires. I had 1 left. And a gentleman walked up and said, let me get that for you. And I was like, oh, no, I'm done. And then he was like, you know what? You shouldn't refuse help. And I said, okay. So he did he was putting the air in my tire. And then he said, you called me here anyways. And I said, more than you know I did. That is very true that I did. And thank you very much. I appreciate it. And it just blew my mind that day. So anyhow, I know that you can vibrate on a certain level, and then things will happen immediately, just depending on your vibration or your thought process towards it. But we're going to do a part 2 on this assumption things, because this is just not long enough to get all the way into it. But I just wanted to let you guys know that I appreciate you coming around. I appreciate you listening to me. I appreciate you commenting. I appreciate you sharing the video or sharing snippets of it at the parts that you like. I appreciate you telling your people, hey, go in. She got a little things to say. I appreciate all of it. And I'll see you next time. Next Sunday, as a matter of fact. Every Sunday, come grab a little dose of Domesticated Me. I'm going to be popping something on every Sunday, whether it's just something little or not. Have a nice day out there.